Dendro is one of the most mysterious elements in Genshin Impact. We currently have no characters that can use this element. However, this is something that's going to be changing real soon. There are currently 3 characters who we know will have access to this element, and I'm going to talk about who and when we should be receiving them, as well as some information about the Dendro element itself. To preface this, I'm going to be discussing some leaks, so of course that means anything here should be taken with a grain of salt. Alright, so before we get too far in, what even is Dendro? Dendro is the naturey life element. We also know that one of the 7 is the Dendro Archon, which belongs to the region of Sumeru, and Sumeru is the desert foresty-like area. Now, while us as players do not have access to the Dendro element, there are enemies out there that do have access to it. These enemies include the Dendro Samachurls, the Dendro Slimes, and there's also a Dendro Abyss Mage that's currently not available to fight, but we do know is in the game. We also know that it does have the capacity to proc an elemental reaction. However, there is only currently the one elemental reaction. That being when Pyro and Dendro interact, it causes the burning effect. If you try to cause an elemental reaction with any other element, Dendro doesn't have any effects that apply. I do believe that this is due to the game being so early in its development, and not because there's any story reason behind it. We currently know that Dendro is the naturey life element. This leads me to believe that it's going to be somewhat of a support element. Much different to Geo and Anemo, I believe the elemental reactions that Dendro will cause will apply debuffs on enemies and will directly support your team members. That being, it could give your team members buffs and maybe even some healing. Some of these debuffs could even cause damage, maybe even something like poison being caused when Electro and Dendro interact, or maybe even something that holds enemies in place if you pair Dendro with Geo, or even a direct healing interaction between Dendro and Hydro. These reaction ideas are purely speculation on my part. If you guys have any ideas, please make sure you let me know in the comments. Moving on from there, when exactly can we see the Dendro element playable in the game? To answer this question outright, I believe we're going to see Dendro characters released in 1.5. Let me explain why. Further discussing these leaks, I would love to show you guys source images and things like that, but MiHoYo doesn't enjoy them being displayed on YouTube videos. So I will leave my sources in the description down below. Now, currently the leaks out there talk about how after 1.4, the Mondstadt Flower Festival, we will see a small update that will be the Liyue equivalent to Dragonspine. This means a new area, and we know that the name of it is the Chasm. To further build on this speculation, I believe the Chasm update is meant to bring players back and generate some hype. With this thought process in mind, I believe a lot of the things that we're going to see is the new area, new endgame content, aka dungeons, of course new characters. The cherry on top here is that we would probably get Dendro and its elemental reactions being released. But just saying these speculations based on these leaks isn't enough for some people, so let me give it some validity. During the Lantern Rite Festival, Kea talks to us about enjoying the Mondstadt Ludi Harparum, which is a completely separate festival from the one that is coming in 1.4. That one being the Mondstadt Windbloom Festival. This would mean that we would see the Ludi Harparum at a later date. Now, I don't expect MiHoYo exactly to put 2 Mondstadt events back to back. However, if we had a big update such as the Chasm where we were in a new area, I would imagine it would be okay to return to good old Mondstadt after a big update like that. Now, in order to give these claims a little bit more validity, I do need to talk about the characters that will be involved. So, let's talk about which Dendro characters we're going to be getting in 1.5. The first character we would receive in 1.5 is Yao Yao. If you don't know Yao Yao, she is a 4-star Dendro Catalyst character. Her design and weapon info is only out there thanks to leaks, and we can see that she appears to be some sort of healer. She also has the color palette that is heavily involving the color green, and her design and information that is in the game shows us that she is from Liyue. Now, her being a Liyue character is pretty important, as we are currently in Liyue, and the chances of us getting this Liyue character after Inazuma seems a little strange. I am aware of the fact that we have gotten characters from Mondstadt while we're in Liyue. Rosaria, MiHoYo, please don't copyright strike me. However, this does feel a little different considering the fact that they probably want to generate some hype for the game before we head to Inazuma. And the way to do that is not just characters, they gotta do something big. And the Chasm and maybe even a new element would definitely probably bring back players. But anyway, let's talk more about Yao Yao. The leaks that are out there currently talk about her being a 4-star Dendro unit, which makes sense, as a Catalyst character would be perfect for testing the new elemental reactions. And not only that, her being a 4-star character makes her much more accessible to everyone versus a 5-star that would only be available to the lucky few who managed to pull the character. Speaking of 5-star characters though, let me talk about the next Dendro character that we're probably going to be receiving. The next Dendro character that we're probably going to be receiving in 1.5 is Baizao. Now if you don't know Baizao, this character currently resides in Liyue and is the owner of the Boo Boo Pharmacy. That's fun to say, huh? Boo Boo? Sorry, I'm an adult, I promise. Anyway, talking more about Baizao, we know for a fact, once again, this is a Liyue character, and it makes sense for us to receive before Inazuma. As for his weapon, there's not that much leaked information about Baizao actually. However, this does leave room for some speculation about his weapon type. We know thanks to Herbalist Gui that Baizao is fragile and is actually weaker than the zombie girl Chi-Chi. This leads me to believe that we're not going to see Baizao as a frontline melee class. That being said, I honestly feel like Baizao would probably be our first male catalyst user. However, I would speculate that he could also be a bow user, only due to the fact that we know for sure Yao Yao is going to be a Dendro catalyst, and having two characters with the same weapon and elemental type, it leads to disinterest, and we know what MiHoYo wants. We know they want you to roll, baby. So the chances of them putting two of the same type of character in banners back to back is probably slim to none. So I honestly think Baizao will probably be a bow user. However, if we don't see him in 1.5, I definitely think he will be a catalyst user. And with Baizao out of the way, you're probably wondering who the third Dendro character is. Well, the answer is plain and simple. The third Dendro character that we know about in the game that we will be receiving at some point is the God of Wisdom themselves. The youngest of all Archons at the age of 500, the Dendro Archon is more than likely going to be a Dendro character that we will receive in the game. We currently have no information about their weapon type or any other information about that, but one thing we do know is they do exist and we will more than likely be having them on a banner. If you're wondering when we're supposed to be receiving this character, we will be receiving them in Chapter 3 of the story. Sumeru is supposed to be the 4th place that the Traveler ends up going to. This means it'll be after Inazuma, and probably sometime after 3.0. And that's all the information that we currently have for Dendro, and any characters that could potentially be using the element. So that's it for me, Kings, Queens, and Majesties. If you guys liked the video, be sure to hit that like button. If you like me, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring that bell icon to see more from me in the future. And lastly, be sure to check out my Twitch, where I stream Genshin practically every day. Later.